Hey everyone, welcome back, and in this video let's talk about 2D arrays. What are 2D arrays and why do we need them? Now most of the programmers or most of the students find 2D arrays really confusing. But in this video I'm going to simplify the 2D arrays, and I'm sure that after watching this video the concept of 2D arrays will be clear to you. So watch this video very carefully and with the full concentration. So let's start with the 2D arrays. So first question, what are 2D arrays? So 2D arrays, if I say 2D, the D stands for dimensions. So 2D array means that two-dimensional arrays. Okay. What do you mean by dimension? Like what do you mean by two-dimensional? So I can say that anything that has rows, okay, the rows, and the second dimension, the columns. So basically arrays that have rows and columns are known as 2D arrays. Now I absolutely understand that you are confused that what are rows, what are columns, or like what are rows and columns in 2D arrays, or basically arrays. Okay, so just understand this thing very carefully. If I say you that int integer, which is okay, create an array of integers, correct, which is arr, right? So what does this mean? Can I say that this particular statement means like we have an array which can have 1, 2, 3 and 4. Is this statement clear, right? So basically I am saying that an array of integers basically, right? Similarly we can even have a character array, right? So we can have an array which has characters, and what I can say that first can be like A, then it can be B, which is completely fine, correct? What if we have two integer arrays? Okay, just understand this carefully. We have two integer arrays. So one array can be like 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so this is an array. And I have one more integer array. Let's say the name of like the elements of this array is, let's say 10, 11 and 12. Now can I store these, like this is an array, this is an array. Can I store these two arrays again in an array? Like what? Like what I say that I have an array which has an array and again an array, right? Because an array can have anything. Like you can have an array of numbers, you can have an array of characters. What if you have an array of arrays and that arrays contains numbers, right? So this thing is known as 2D arrays. Basically when an array contains arrays inside it, this basically means 2D arrays. Okay, now where are dimensions is this we'll be discussing here, but this thing is really important to understand. Okay, so in any programming language where we talk about 2D arrays, what we do is basically we create an array, okay, which can have multiple sub arrays. So here's an array, here's an array, here's an array. Okay, okay, now you will be thinking like what's the use of this, why this even exists? Okay, if you are a math student, you might have studied a chapter known as matrix, correct? So basically a matrix is nothing but a 2D array. So if I say like 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6 and 7, 8, 9, correct? Is this a matrix? You'll say yes. And what if I say you that do one thing, create a Java program that can hold this matrix, right? So you will be like, hey, there is no data type known as matrix, right? I can store integers, I can store characters, but how can I store a matrix inside a variable, right? So what you can do is you can have three arrays. Okay, one array is 1, 2, 3. Another array is 4, 5, 6. Okay, one more array 7, 8, 9. And you can create an array, a big array of these three numbers. So this is your 0th index. Basically this is your first index, this is your second index. If you create a simple array, what happens is this particular thing is 0th index, correct? And this is 1. Similarly, in this 2D array, this whole thing becomes your 0th array, 0th index, and this is your first index. So in this is your 0th element, okay? This is your first and this is your second. So this particular thing is a matrix, okay? And because it's a matrix, you can easily see that there are rows and then there are columns. So that's why this is known as 2D arrays. Okay, now let's see in Java how we can make 2D arrays and how to work with them. Okay, so what I can do, see, I want to have a array of I want to have a 2D array of integers, right? So what I can say that do one thing, create an integer array. Okay, create an integer array. Okay, let's start the easy way. This is my array 1, which is new integer. Okay, and it contains 1, 2 and 3, which is fine. Then I have one more array arr2, which again contains some elements 4, 5 and 6. This is absolutely understandable. Now I want to create an array of this thing, correct? So what I can say that, hey, create an array of array. Okay, so what does this double square means? That create an array of array which is of type integer, correct? And then I can say that this is my arr, which is my 2D array, and I'll say new, again this integer, right? And what I can say that in this integer, the first element is arr1 and the second element is arr2. Simple, right? So basically what I'm doing, I have made two arrays and then a 2D array in which you have arr1 and arr2. Now let's try to print this out. So I'll say s out. Yes, let's use the arrays.toString method. Okay, and I'll say arr. So let's try to print this particular program, and you are getting two addresses, right? So let's try to print the arr at 0. Okay, basically this array will be returned arr1, right? So if I run this program, so yes, on the 0th I have 1, 2, 3, and if I say arr at 1, I should get 4, 5, 6, which is okay. Now there's one more method to create an 2D array, right? So what you can do is you can say that integer array. Let's name it as arr2d, which is our 2D array, new integer. And what I can say that I have an array which again has an array, and that has a value 1, 2 and 3, and then it again has a array of 4, 5 and 6. So basically this means the same thing, exactly same, okay, as the above one. So these are the two methods to create a 2D array. So you know that what is 2D array, right? You can visualize the 2D array. Okay, now I have one question for you. Let's do one thing, let's remove this code, okay, because this is pretty much the same code itself. How can you print this 2 on the terminal? Like your task is to print this particular element on the terminal. How can you do that? Okay, so how can I do that? Basically there are two approaches. Okay, so first of all, let's go with the understandable approach. So what I'll say, that do one thing, I can see that this particular 2 is in the first array, basically in the array of 0th index. So I can say that first of all, let's pull out that array. So I'll say arr, okay, equals to arr2d at 0. Now this particular element holds this array, right? And now it's simple, like I can say arr at 1. So this will print 2, correct? So basically first I referenced this, then I pulled out the 0th, first I pulled out the 0th array, then I printed the first element of it, which is this. Now what if I say you that do it in one line? Okay, so what you can do is you can take this arr2d here. You can say that, hey arr2d, first of all give me your 0th element, and from there you can give me your first element, and this will again give you 2, as you can see on my screen. Okay, now your task is to print this 6. Okay, now how can I print this 6 here? So I guess you have guessed it right. Okay, so first of all go to the first and then print the second element. So basically first will refer to this particular array and 0, 1, 2. So if I run this now, so what I'm getting 6. So that's the concept of 2D arrays. Okay, so and it's really easy, right? So basically there are rows and columns. So we refer to this as rows and this as columns. So basically here this 1 is the row. Okay, so row 1 and second column, which is this. So this is like first row, this is second row, then this is first column, these both are in first column, then this 2 and 5 in second column, and then these are the third columns. And because array indexes start from 0, so that's why we have like this is the 0th row, this is the first row. And I hope you got the point, correct? So this was a very basic video on 2D array. Okay, now let's try couple of more things on 2D array. Your task is to print this array on the screen. Okay, so in the previous video we used a for loop for a traversal. Now let's see how you can do that, a traversal on a 2D array. Now in order to traverse a 2D array, you need to use something known as nested loops. basically a loop inside loop. Okay, see what I can do. I can say that, hey, integer I equals to 0 and go till arr2d dot length, arr2d dot length, okay, and I plus plus. Now what this will do is this will basically loop on this whole thing and this whole thing. Okay, basically it will be running 2 times because the size of this particular array is 2. Okay, the first element and the second element. Now what I want to do is for each element, okay, let's say what I say here is like I have an integer a which is equals to arr2d at I. Okay, so this a first time will be equals to this particular array and then this will be equals to this particular array. Now this is a single 1D array, right? One dimensional array, and you know from the previous video how you can print it. So what I can say, I can have a new variable j equals to 0 and then j less than a dot length, because a is also an array whose size is 3, and then j plus plus, and do one thing, s out. What do you want to s out? Either you can say that a of j, which is the same thing, or I can say that from 2D take the ith, like which is 0 and then j. Okay, so if I run this program right now, see what happens. I'm getting 1 2 3 4 5 6, basically the first 3 elements this, then this. Okay, even I can say that a of I and not a of j, because a is a 1D array. So if I now run this program, I'm again getting 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now you can even simplify this. What you can do is you can cut this line, and instead of this you can do like arr2d I dot length and then replace this a with this particular statement. So this will exactly do the same thing for 1 2 3 4 5 6. Pause the screen right here, try to read the code and understand it. It's really easy. Okay, you can even have more elements here, you can have more rows. So like I can say 7 8 and 9. Now this upper loop will run 3 times and this will also run 3 times because it's a 3 by 3 matrix. There are 3 elements and 3 arrays, right? So if I run this program, you can see 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's do an s out outside of this particular loop, and I can say like maybe some couple of hyphens. Now see what will happen. Now you can even separate them out, right? The 1 2 3 is in the first array, 4 5 6 is in the second array. So this particular thing is known as nested loops. A loop running inside a loop is known as nested loop. So what happens is first this loop runs. Okay, now for every element of this loop runs. Okay, and then it goes up. So I0, basically this element, then this particular loop will run 3 times to print all these 3. Then it will go again to this thing, then this will run for this particular array, and then this will again run 3 times. So basically this will run 3 into 3 times. So because you have 9 elements, so it is running 9 times in total. Okay, so for each loop it runs again and again. So that's how you can traverse an array, a 2D array basically. Similarly, you can even have an input. Okay, so in like if you want to have an input, what you can do is you can say that arr2d at I and j equals to, then you can say like scanner like dot next int, right? So here you can do the scanner dot next int, and basically what you are doing is you are putting the values in that. So this was a basic video on 2D arrays. What are 2D arrays, why they are useful, what are matrix, you already know that. How to traverse. See, when you talk about arrays, the most important thing is traversal. You should know how to traverse on an array. Okay, and if you know how to traverse on an array, everything becomes really easy. So you know that how to traverse on an array and how to traverse a 2D array. So this was all about 2D arrays. I hope you liked the video, and let's meet you in the next video. Until then, bye bye, take care.